It's the Conquest Sorcerer Kings week, and with a comment, you could win an amazing box set. We will choose 3 winners. 1 from YouTube, 1 from OnTableTop.com, and 1 from our Cult of Games members. So you guys get an extra chance to win.
Hello everybody and welcome back to our Sorcerer Kings themed week as we delve into the wonderful world of Ia from Para Bellum for Conquest. And this time we're going to be talking about how you can expand your Sorcerer Kings army and where you may want to go from your initial venture. We use the single player starter box as our core for our force, and now we're going to be looking at where you can go, what you need, and how you can get there. So first things first, obviously you only have one hero. You're working just with a Raj, so you're going to need another hero at least. And I thought I would talk first about the big boy, the Maharaja, as being obviously the most superb of all casters.
Oh, yes. Of course.
The godlike abilities that he brings. But he also has a couple of extra little quirks, shall we say. First off, when you have one as your warlord, he has the potential then, anytime somebody generates a ritual, they automatically, from a supremacy ability, get another ritual token on another ritual. So he can pump those up and out very quickly. So he's handy as a battery just to keep the rituals generating and keep your opponent on the back foot. The other thing he does is, when you build a warband, it's a character and their retinue. The retinue is limited to 4 units. You can't have more restricted than you have mainstay. When you have him as your warlord, it means you can take Rakshasa and Danor's disciples as a 5th regiment within your retinue. And it can be used to unlock, essentially. So you can use them as mainstays. It gives the potential to have a lot more of the fun elemental stuff on the tabletop. Or if you really want to swarm your opponent, go really horde heavy with a lot of infantry, then he can do that as well. All right in attack and combat as a character stand, he's nothing special. Yeah. But he's really all about the rituals and all about generating the additional spell to just keep that army churning over, whether it's buffing your own forces or just distracting and annoying your opponent. So he's the main guy, and he's a great fella to have.
Yeah.
The sorcerer is a standard spellcaster, has a barrage spell, has a couple of interesting abilities, which is any elemental that binds to her. So if she's from the court of air, any air elementals, or the court of fire, any fire elementals, or in the case of the Gauls, who count as both, they can be used as the point of origin, the line of sight for her spells. So she can hide behind them, and even if they're engaged with the unit, then she can fire into that unit as if she wasn't blocked.
That's very nice.
It's a great way.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I like that.
So her supremacy ability is an omnipotence. It does mean she has to be your warlord to get it. But if you want to go magic heavy, Sorcerer Kings is definitely the force to try that with.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
The other character we have who is not a caster is the Sardar. And Sardar is interesting in that he's the opposite of the Maharaja, in that he restricts very significantly what you can have in your retinue. Pretty much all you're going to have are Rakshasa or Danor's disciples. So they're a militaristic leader, bring a lot of infantry, don't get any elemental things, can have a Mahut, so can bring the giant walking
Was that all just an
elephant. Yeah.
Yes.
Just can have one of these.
Yes. Yes, it's only a small thing.
It is. It's only a wafer thin. But what he does do, which is really good, is whenever he is on an objective, when it comes to the victory phase in the turn, he adds a ritual marker to one of the rituals that's ongoing. So you put him in a big block of Rakshasa, you set him on an objective, and he's just constantly generating ritual points.
That's nice, yeah.
So he's just a solid fighter. He has some additional abilities that will help the infantry sort of hold the objectives and stay on there. But even though he's not a sorcerer himself, he will therefore supplement the other sorcerers in getting those rituals off faster. And again, I think that might tie back in with the supremacy ability for the Maharaja, where anytime a ritual marker goes onto a ritual, you can put one onto a different ritual.
Yep.
So you can just keep churning through and really get them in there quickly.
I will say the Maharaja, that ability to put an extra ritual point on another ritual, it's very nice whenever you had two rituals going and it was just constantly 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. It was very nice. You got them off very quickly.
I did. Unfortunately, I didn't always have them in the correct place in my command stack to make best use of them, but, you know, at least it gave me options and kept you guessing.
That's it.
One of the big things we were missing with the initial core force is any sort of range, which, you know, is terrible. But we can deal with that in two ways. Obviously, the Ifrit are little combat shotguns with their flame casters. They've got torrential fire that they can, it buffs their flame casters. So anytime the flame casters deal damage, if you get 6s on defense, then torrential fire does an additional wound.
Oh, that's not
so
bad, yeah.
with 15 attacks from 3 stands, your opponent's going to get a few doubles in there, and you know it'll soften things up nicely. A cheaper option, but with a much longer range, are the Danner's Disciples. So these are your standard infantry bowmen, or in this case, bowwomen. 20-inch range. They have barrage. They also have arcing fire, so they can again shoot over intervening troops by using somebody else's line of sight as their target. So they can neatly sit behind with maybe a Maharaj or, well, probably a Maharaj in their unit who doesn't want to get forward, have some big blocks of infantry in front, keep them behind. They're still firing because they don't need line of sight directly. They just, they lose their bonus for take aim, but they get to use the line of sight of a friendly unit in front. And so they're just constantly chipping away, doing little ping damage. And your Maharaj is just sitting there generating rituals and rituals and rituals. And your opponent's getting really annoyed as it goes. So they're a good, solid choice. They're also mainstay, so they unlock the same as the Raja Kur. So it's good to have another option for both an unlock regiment and also to do some distant damage. Not my favourite version, though. If I want to do distant damage, I really like these.
You'll be taking these out soon.
The Windborn Jin, the air elemental version of the Ifrits, essentially. Again, it's a dual kit, so you've got the option. You can run them as Steelborn, which are the melee version. They've got a movement of 7 inches, so they're fast in either flavour, and they've got a cleave of 2 when they're melee with 2 impact. They have a lower amount of attacks than the Ifrits, so it depends whether you need a bunch of attacks and no cleave to go through lightly armoured troops, or if you need to just hack somebody to pieces, in which case, bish bash bosh, you go for the Steelborn. In the Windborn ranged version, though, 20-inch range, piercing 1, barrage 3 per stand. So half the damage or half the dice output of the Disciples, but with piercing 1, much more likely to actually cause damage when they hit. And especially against heavily armored targets, you want to have something with a bit of piercing on the board just to start banging into them. Whether it's city-states who've got decent frontal armor with those shields, or if you're playing 100 Kingdoms, there's so many knights around, you really want to be starting to remove wounds before they get anywhere near you, which makes these a really solid choice to reach out and touch people. And I think overall, the loss of damage or loss of dice output is offset quite significantly by the fact that you have got the piercing on them.
I completely agree. My Haspists, you shot in the ass a couple of times. They started to fall decently quickly with that piercing 1, and even the Hephaestion started. You took 4 or 5 wounds or something from 1 volley, and I expected a lot less. But whenever I saw 4 or 5 wounds off, I was like, they're going to be a problem. Yeah,
I won't say how that affected the game, but they were very necessary. And being able to feel them on the wing with that movement of 7 inches and then 20-inch range has a really significant threat projection. And if you have the potential to get them in as reinforcements further up the board then as well, coming in from a flank, maybe in a later turn, then all of a sudden your opponent can find themselves being repeatedly shot in the back with piercing, which is never a good thing. You never want to be in that sort of position, because it'll just go horribly wrong in the long run for you. However, you'll be wanting something big to deal with things that are horrible. And in this case, we have the Rakshasa, who comes in 2 flavors. This is the Rakshasa Ravasar, which is built for dealing with monsters, titans, brutes. So anything big that your opponent's going to be throwing at you. Got cleave of 2, got a chunky 11 attacks, does a bit of damage on impact, gets to reroll missed hits against big monsters and brutes, which means you're almost guaranteed that you're going to be doing 11 damage or 11 wounds on the unit. And then with cleave of 2, hard to defend against that when he comes
Very
in.
much so, yeah.
Couple that with things like Aura of Death. So once he gets into combat, if he doesn't kill them, chances are they're going to take another monster off, another standoff, whatever happens to be, whenever they activate. And he also has a spiteful last gasp attack where when you kill him, a friendly spellcaster within range can essentially deal damage, like I think it's 8 hits to an enemy unit. So when he dies, a friendly spellcaster goes, I'll just redirect some elemental damage onto you. And that can be quite painful. He does have, obviously, a dual kit. The other Rakshasa variant is all about killing characters and regiments. Less cleave. So cleave goes down to 1, but his attacks goes up. And re-rolling against characters and infantry regiments. So you can kind of see how you want both.
Yeah, I really want both.
Want both. Running around beside each other, looking for targets. He also gets the bonus if you are attempting to charge something that he wants to kill, because he is a hunter who looks for targets. He gets a big buff to his charge range. So he gets 3 inches on top of his movement of 7. So he's got a 10-inch base before you add in your D6 charge. Yep. It's almost impossible to fail. He's got a really spectacular threat projection, and anybody who's attempting to put something on the table will have to be very wary of where the Rakshasa is coming in, because he will just rip people's faces off. He can reduce a brute regiment from fresh to dead in 1 turn if he's particularly lucky.
Yeah, very much so.
And if not, he will definitely do it in 2 turns. So good, solid support monster. Because defense is decent, and he's got 16 wounds, so a chunky amount for people to have to chew through. Not impossible. As we've seen, there are some out there that will, Titans, possibly take him out in 1 go if they get the chance, but severely, severely good model, and really, really solid stat line to back him up.
Very much so, yeah. He was a danger on the board. As soon as he came on, I was like, we're just going to try and ignore him.
It is the best way. We have one more thing that I want to talk about. The white elephant are Mahut. So
the size of that.
This is actually a specific character version. So we'll talk about the character version very briefly first, because this rules for this have only just come out. It can be used in First Blood as well. If you use it in First Blood, it is over half of your list. It's like 520 points. It's ridiculous.
Why not just take 2?
Because you're only allowed 1 character in First Blood. Actually, that's not true. In First Blood, you can take a Sardar as a bonus character in Sorcerer Kings, which I forgot to mention. So if you're playing First Blood, you can a 70-point character as a fighter can be added in there as well. You can be used as an ossifer for Rajikar. The Mahut with the Maharaja on it is it's called the Favourite of Hormus, which is actually the elemental sorcerer king of earth. So each of the elements are sort of going to be covered eventually. Hormus is getting a name check now, even though the initial army is based on air and fire. The massive white marble living statue is coming. When you have the Maharaja on top, there are some interesting things. One is they can't declare duels.
I wonder why.
Under the special rule, you and whose army? They just lie on their cushions at the top, and just live life to the max and not worry about anything, which is great.
That's perfect. Yeah, love it. Why would you? Why would you get down off of your brilliant, bloody, massive god elephant?
No, you wouldn't, because you're on top of a living statue.
It's unsafe down there, and all the peasants live there.
That is very true. Don't want to get in amongst them. Otherwise, relatively standard Maharaja. They have the rituals, they have their abilities. Any targets or any attacks are all based on the Mahut, which has 28 wounds to chew through.
Oh.
Yeah. And that's the same for the standard Mahut lineup as well. So if you're not rocking the version with the Maharaja in the back, you actually take 4 of the little Darner's disciples, and they are in the back of the Mahut's howdah instead. They can always fire off their little barrage. However, if they're engaged in combat, they can only fire into the people that the Mahut is currently fighting against. That's your standard setup, and it's still about 460 points.
Yep.
But it's a brutal impact too. So when it goes in, it's going to be stomping through everything.
Yep.
A absolute boatload of attacks with cleave as well. I think cleave of 2. And like I say, 28 wounds to chew through with defensive 3.
That's a lot.
And I think hardened as well.
Oh.
It is an anvil.
Yes,
And
very much so, yeah.
And when you're playing games like this, you've got to be thinking anvils and hammers and have them both in equal amounts. And something like the Rakshasa, which is a fantastic hammer for specific units, but getting into a position where you can actually get them in and charge can sometimes be difficult. However, having this coming up the table, just doing some small chip damage all the time, possibly on a flank, where you're likely to come up against light infantry or light cavalry more than you will come up against big blocks of solid heavy infantry, means you're doing a little bit of damage as you go up, but when you finally get in there, they're not going to have the equipment to deal with it. They're not going to have anything to take that sheer volume of wounds off in one turn, or possibly even 2 or 3 turns. It will just sit there as an anchor point on either a flank or pivot on the center of your army on it. Depending on the scenario you're playing, you may want to realign them wherever. So interesting options. I love the favourite of Hormus, to be fair. Just the idea of a Maharaja sitting on some cushions and casting spells at the peasantry as the giant marble elephant stomps on everything below them.
Perfect. Cup of tea in hand. Fantastic.
Yeah,
love it.
It's a beautiful, beautiful idea. With these new regiments, these new units, it's very, well, I mean, we've already made up to 2,000 points here. Added another 12 men, so another 3 stands of Raja Kur, to give us a block of 6 stands that can either be used with the Raj, which I think is a good way to go.
Yes.
Because it becomes a really important unit to move, in that if your opponent doesn't, they've got enough buffs from his spell casting that he will just tear them apart.
Yep.
And at the same time, it's got so much in the way of control for objectives that it's very, very difficult to shift off an objective, so they're just going to be scoring points all the time. Take another block of 3 stands, so another Raja Kur regiment, and then maybe put the Sardar in it, a smaller objective taker, but again has the potential then to generate extra ritual points just by holding those objectives. Maharaja can then lead Darner's disciples, sitting at the back, doing a lot of barrage volleys over the top while he is constantly generating rituals. And all of a sudden you see that you've got just 3 core mainstay units who are holding objectives very solidly, not going to be easy to shift.
No, not at all.
And generating a ton of ritual points. And your opponent has to deal with those. And if they're dealing with those, then they're not going to be dealing with 2 regiments of the Windborn Jin volleying constantly into people with piercing, and a big block of the Ifrit just doing all the damage. And then that just leaves us with our 2 absolute living legends, the Rakshasa and the favourite of Hormus, either anchoring or tag teaming somebody. I mean, ideally what you want is to push Hormus forward and let the Hephaestion hit him first, knowing he's not going to be able to take it out in one turn. And the Rakshasa will then polish him off afterwards. So easy to get to 2,000 points off the back of that core set, and potentially, depending on how you want to build things, really laying into the elemental side is a good way to go because there's a lot of synergies in there that we haven't even explored. So there's certain abilities that when you use them, or certainly rituals when they're cast, will then allow other units to get free actions or activations if they happen to be the next card in the stack. That will take a little bit of finessing to get to learn how all of these sort of intricate parts work. But don't forget the core humans. They're not just there for window dressing just because everything else is so shiny. And the elementals, they're great. You can still do a lot of really significant damage and board control with just the basic Rajakur and the Danner's Disciples. So it's a solid infantry list with demonic friends.
I'd be having a lot of Rajakur if I played the Sorcerer Kings, I think. Just having them with Rajas, Sardars, just, the amount of damage they can soak up, and then the amount of damage they can then dish out with buffs. Yeah, I like them.
Yeah.
I like them a lot.
I've split this list into 3 regiments or 3 warbands, and the one that has the Sardar in it currently has got the block of 24.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking probably better to have the Raj in there. Although he doesn't have to buff his own unit. He can buff a friendly unit, in which case he could be lurking somewhere else and buff the big unit while
he's nearby. That's it.
Yeah. Keep him at the back and defend him. Make sure his rituals are still going off at the same time.
But he himself is a decent melee command anyway. So getting a few extra attacks is not a bad idea. Even having them with the Rajakur, it's not a bad idea. Because he's got so many wounds in front of him.
There is
the Rajakur.
Yeah, there's potential in there to do a lot of damage here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is how we're currently developing the Sorcerer Kings army in here. It'll be interesting to get the full 2,000 points on the board and play it off against something a bit different, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe throw it up against my Spires.
Ooh.
Maybe dig my Wadroon out. See how that goes.
Wow.
Yes. But let us know what you think below, folks. We're going to head on from here. Hopefully you've been enjoying the week. Please check out the other videos that have been part of the Sorcerer Kings theme week, and we will see you again soon.
It's the Conquest Sorcerer Kings week, and with a comment, you could win an amazing box set. We will choose 3 winners. 1 from YouTube, 1 from OnTableTop.com, and 1 from our Cult of Games members. So you guys get an extra chance to win.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.